The Epic of Gilgamesh, the oldest written story on Earth. Part 3, Tablet 11, the last tablet, the story of the flood. In the previous section, we noticed that they were talking about the Anunnaki, who supposedly created the human race. Gilgamesh spoke to Utnapishtim, the faraway. I have been looking at you, but your appearance is not strange. You are like me. You yourself are not different. You are like me. My mind was resolved to fight with you, but instead, my arm lies useless over you. Tell me, how is it that you stand in the assembly of the gods and have found life? Utnapishtim spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, I will reveal to you, Gilgamesh, a thing that is hidden. A secret of the gods I will tell you. Shuruppak, a city that you surely know, situated on the banks of the Euphrates, that city was very old, and there were gods inside it. The hearts of the great gods moved them to inflict the flood. Their father, Anu, uttered the oath of secrecy. Valiant Enlil was their advisor. Ninurta was their chamberlain. Ennugi was their minister of canals. Ea, the clever prince, was under oath with them. So he repeated their talk to the reed house. Reed house, wail, wail. Wall, wall, a man of Shuruppak, son of Ubartutu. Tear down the house and build a boat. Abandon wealth and seek living beings. Spurn possessions and keep alive living beings. Make all beings go up into the boat which you are to build. Its dimensions must measure equal to each other. Its length must correspond to its width. Roof of it over the Apsu. I understood and spoke to my lord Ea. My lord, thus is the command which you have uttered, and I will heed and will do it. But what shall I answer the city, the populace, and the elders? Ea spoke, commanding me, his servant. You, well then, this is what you must say to them. It appears that Enlil is rejecting me, so I cannot reside in your city, nor set foot on Enlil's earth. I will go down to the Apsu to live with my lord Ea, and upon you he will rain down abundances, a profusion of fowl, myriad fishes. He will bring to you a harvest of wealth. In the morning he will let loaves of bread shower down, and in the evening a rain of wheat. Just as dawn began to glow, the land assembled around me. The carpenters carried his hatchet, the reed worker carried his flattened stone, the men, the child, carried the pitch, the weak brought whatever else was needed, and on the 5th day I laid out her exterior. It was a field in area. Its walls were each 10 times 12 cubits in height. Its sides of the top were of equal length, 10 times 8 cubits each. I laid out its interior structure and drew a picture of it. I provided it with 6 decks, thus dividing into 7 levels. The inside of it I divided into 9 compartments. I drove plugs to keep out water in the middle part. I saw to the punting poles and laid in what was necessary. 3 times 360 units of raw bitumen I poured into the bitumen kiln. 3 times 360 units of pitch into it. There were 3 times 360 porters of casks who carried vegetable oil, apart from the 3,600 units of oil which they consumed, and 2 times 3,600 units of oil which the boatmen stored away. I butchered oxen for the meat, and day upon day I slaughtered sheep. I gave the workmen ale, beer, oil, and wine as if it were river water, so they could make a party like the New Year's festival. I set my hand to the oiling. The boat was finished by sunset. The launch was very difficult. They had to keep carrying a runway of poles front to back, until 2/3 of it had gone into the water. Whatever I had, I loaded on it. Whatever silver I had, I loaded on it. Whatever gold I had, I loaded on it. All the living beings that I had, I loaded on it. I had all my kith and kin go up into the boat. All the beasts and animals of the field and the craftsmen I had go up. Shamash had set a stated time. In the morning I will let loaves of bread shower down, and in the evening a rain of wheat. Go inside the boat, seal the entry. That stated time has arrived. In the morning he let loaves of bread shower down, and in the evening a rain of wheat. I watched the appearance of the weather. The weather was frightful to behold. I went into the boat and sealed the entry. For the caulking of the boat to Puzuramuri, the boatman, I gave the palace together with its contents. Just as dawn began to glow, there arose from the horizon a black cloud. Adad rumbled inside it. Before him went Sulat and Hanish, heralds going over mountain and land. Aragal pulled out the mooring poles. Forth went Ninurta and made the dikes overflow. The Anunnaki lifted up the torches, setting the land ablaze with their flare. Stunned, shock over Adad's deeds overtook the heavens, and turned to blackness all that had been light. The land shattered like a pot. The day long, the south wind blew all day long, blowing fast, submerging the mountain in water, overwhelming the people like an attack. No one could see his fellow. They could not recognize each other in the torrent. The gods were frightened by the flood and retreated, ascending to the heaven of Anu. The gods were cowering like dogs, crouching by the outer wall. Ishtar shrieked like a woman in childbirth. The sweet-voiced mistress of the gods wailed. The olden days have alas turned to clay, because I said evil things in the assembly of the gods. How could I say evil things in the assembly of the gods, ordering a catastrophe to destroy my people? No sooner have I given birth to my dear people than they fill the sea like so many fish. The gods, those of the Anunnaki, were weeping with her. The gods humbly sat weeping, sobbing with grief, their lips burning, parched with thirst. 6 days and 7 nights came the wind and flood. The storm flattened the land. When the 7th day arrived, the storm was pounding. The flood was a war, struggling with itself like a woman writhing in labor. The sea calmed, fell still. The whirlwind and flood stopped up. I looked around all day long. Quiet had set in, and all the human beings had turned to clay. The terrain was as flat as a roof. I opened a vent, and fresh air and daylight fell upon the side of my nose. I fell to my knees and sat weeping. Tears streamed down the side of my nose. I looked around for coastlines in the expanse of the sea, and at 12 leagues there emerged a region of land. On Mount Nimush, the boat logged firm. Mount Nimush held the boat, allowing no sway. One day, and a second Mount Nimush held the boat, allowing no sway. A third day, a fourth Mount Nimush held the boat, allowing no sway. A fifth day, a sixth Mount Nimush held the boat, allowing no sway. When the 7th day arrived, I sent forth a dove and released it. The dove went forth but came back to me. No perch was visible, so it circled back to me. I sent forth a swallow and released it. The swallow went off but came back to me. No perch was visible, so it circled back to me. I sent forth a raven and released it. The raven went off and saw the water slither back. It eats, it scratches, it bobs, but does not circle back to me. Then I sent out everything in all directions and sacrificed a sheep. I offered incense in front of the mountain Ziggurat. 7 and 7 cult vessels I put in place, and into the fire underneath, or into their bowls, I poured reeds, cedar, and myrtle. The gods smelt the savor. The gods smelt the sweet savor and collected like flies over a sheep sacrifice. Just then Bele Tili arrived. She lifted up the large flies, the beads, which Anu had made for his enjoyment. You gods, as surely as I shall not forget this lapis lazuli around my neck, may I be mindful of these days and never forget them. The gods may come to the incense offering, but Enlil may not come to the incense offering, because without considering he brought about the flood and consigned my people to annihilation. End quote. Just then Enlil arrived. He saw the boat and became furious. He was filled with rage at the Igigi gods. Quote, where did a living being escape? No man was to survive the annihilation. End quote. Ninurta spoke to valiant Enlil, saying, quote, who else but Ea could devise such a thing? It is Ea who knows every machination. End quote. La spoke to valiant Enlil, saying, quote, it is yours, O valiant one, who is the sage of the gods. How could you bring about a flood without considering? Charge the violation to the violator, charge the offense to the offender. But be compassionate, lest mankind be cut off. Be patient, lest they be killed. Instead of your bringing on the flood, would that a lion had appeared to diminish the people. Instead of your bringing the flood, would that a wolf had appeared to diminish the people. Instead of your bringing on the flood, would that famine had occurred to slay the land. Instead of your bringing on the flood, would that pestilence era had appeared to ravage the land. It was not I who revealed the secret of the great gods. I only made a dream appear to Atra Hasis, and thus he heard the secret of the gods. Now then, the deliberation should be about him. End quote. Enlil went up inside the boat, and grasping my hand, made me go up. He had my wife go up and kneel by my side. He touched our forehead, and standing between us, he blessed us. Quote, previously, Utnapishtim was a human being, but now let Utnapishtim and his wife become like us, the gods. Let Utnapishtim reside far away at the mouth of the rivers. They took us far away and settled us at the mouth of the rivers. Quote, now then, who will convene the gods on your behalf, that you may find the life that you are seeking? Wait, you must not lie down for 6 days and 7 nights. End quote. Soon as he sat down with his head between his legs, sleep, like a log, like a fog, blew upon him. Utnapishtim said to his wife, look there, the man, the youth who wanted eternal life. Sleep like a fog blew over him. His wife said to Utnapishtim the faraway, touch him, let the man awaken. Let him return safely the way he came. Let him return to his land by the gate through which he left. Utnapishtim said to his wife, mankind is deceptive and will deceive you. Come, bake loaves for him, and keep setting them by his head, and draw on the wall each day that he lay down. She baked his loaves and placed them by his head, and marked on the wall the day that he lay down. The first loaf was desiccated, the second stale, the third moist, the fourth turned white, the fifth sprouted gray mold, the sixth is still fresh, the seventh suddenly he touched him, and the man awoke. Gilgamesh said to Utnapishtim, quote, the very moment sleep was pouring over me, you touched me and alerted me. End quote. Utnapishtim spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, look over here, Gilgamesh, count your loaves. You should be aware of what is marked on the wall. Your first loaf is desiccated, the second stale, the third moist, the fourth turned white, the fifth sprouted gray mold, the sixth is still fresh, the seventh suddenly he touched him, and the man awoke, Gilgamesh said to Utnapishtim. Gilgamesh said to Utnapishtim the faraway, Oh woe, what shall I do, Utnapishtim, where shall I go? The snatcher has taken hold of my flesh, in my bedroom death dwells, and whatever I set foot, there too is death, wherever I set foot. Home empty-handed, Utnapishtim said to Ushanabi, the ferryman. May the harbor reject you. May the ferry landing reject you. May you who used to walk its shores be denied its shores. The man in front of whom you walk, matted hair chains his body. Animal skins have ruined his beautiful skin. Take him away, Ushanati. Bring him to the washing place and let him wash his matted hair in water like Elu. Let him cast away his animal skin and have the sea carry it off. Let his body be moistened with fine oil. Let the wrap around his head be made new. Let him wear royal robes worthy of him, until he goes off to his city, until he sets off on his way. Let his royal robes not become spoiled, let it be perfectly new. Ushanabi took him away and brought him to the washing place. He washed his matted hair with water like Elu. He cast off his animal skin, and the sea carried it off. He moistened his body with fine oil and made his new wrap for his head. He put on a royal robe worthy of him until he went away to his city, until he set off on his way. His royal robe remained unspotted. It was perfectly clean. Gilgamesh and Ushanabi boarded the boat. They cast off the Maligu boat and sailed away. The wife of Utnapishtim, the faraway, said to him, Gilgamesh came here exhausted and worn out. What can you give him so that he can return to his land with honor? Then Gilgamesh raised a punting pole and drew the boat to shore. Utnapishtim spoke to Gilgamesh, saying, Gilgamesh, you came here exhausted and worn out. What can I give you so that you can return to your land? I will disclose to you a thing that is hidden. Gilgamesh, I will tell you. There is a plant like a box thorn, whose thorns will prick your hand like a rose. If your hand reaches that plant, you will become a young man again. Hearing this, Gilgamesh opened a conduit to the Apsu and attached heavy stones to his feet. They dragged him down to the Apsu, they pulled him. He took the plant, though it pricked his hand, and cut the heavy stones from his feet, letting the waves throw him onto the shore. Gilgamesh spoke to Ushanabi, the ferryman, saying, Ushanabi, this plant is a plant against decay, by which a man can attain his survival. I will bring it to Uruk-haven, and have an old man eat the plant to test it. The plant's name is The Old Man Becomes a Young Man. Then I will eat and return to the condition of my youth. At 20 leagues they broke for some food. At 30 leagues they stopped for the night. Seeing a spring and how cool its waters were, Gilgamesh went down and was bathed in the water. A snake smelled the fragrance of the plant, silently came up and carried off the plant. While going back, it sloughed off its casing. At that point, Gilgamesh sat down, weeping, his tears streaming over the side of his nose. Console me, O ferryman Ushanabi. For whom have my arms labored, Ushanabi? For whom has my heart's blood roiled? I have not secured any good deed for myself, but done a good deed for the lion of the ground. Now the high waters are cursing 20 leagues distant, and I was opening the conduit. I turned my equipment over into it. What can I find to serve as a marker for me? I will turn back from the journey by sea and leave the boat by the shore. At 20 leagues they broke for some food. At 30 leagues they stopped for the night. They arrived in Uruk-haven. Gilgamesh said to Ushanabi the ferryman, Go up, Ushanabi, onto the wall of Uruk and walk around. Examine its foundation. Inspect its brickwork thoroughly. Is not even the core of the brick structure of kiln-fired brick, and did not the 7 sages themselves lay out its plan? 1 league city, 1 league palm gardens, 1 league lowlands, 1 open area of the Ishtar temple, 3 leagues and the open area of Uruk it encloses. That's the end of the Epic of Gilgamesh. I wanted to read this because we keep hearing about the Epic of Gilgamesh, although we don't know what it contains. Well, now we know. So hopefully it'll benefit us to have heard it. If discussion ever comes up about this, you can always enlighten somebody of what it contains.